because houselessness is about to explode in a way that we have never seen before in the history of this country. In a couple of weeks, there are going to be evictions going to be happening. And the most heavily targeted are going to be people of color, black and brown people, and as well as our indigenous brothers and sisters. And they will encounter these same systematic injustices that are in place now. The question is, what will we do about it? Right. What can we do about it? Right. One thing we can do is we can stay here and keep on putting the pressure on these corrupt systems.
You don't pay attention to us, now you're trying to take away our voice from us, so the hell with you.
This is Theo Henderson from Unhoused. We are here early September 1st morning to protest against the police brutality that is continuing. And we're trying to also hold the Los Angeles Police Department accountable for their lies and the deception about their concerning about the unhoused issues as well as police brutality.
We are thinking about our relatives who have been murdered. Just last night, we had another murder here. Dijon Keezy, say his name.
Dijon Keezy!
Governor Nuys and the Democrats in California did not do any type of police reform. So we are going here to hold the police accountable as well as the city accountable. And we're going to continue to cover these issues so the world knows just exactly how corrupt and how broken the system is.
LAPD had made contact with 17,000 of those homeless folks. And they had put like less than 7 people in a shelter and like 4 people they had found permanent housing out of 17,000 contacts.
We've been bringing them facts and figures. We've been bringing them how deep the impact of LAPD's violent policies is, how people are being killed, how people are being surveilled, how people are being banished, how people are being removed from land, how police ultimately serves the profit of the powerful, the gentrifiers and the developers.
The parallels of the 60s is very apparent here. Many of the civil rights leaders had to go through the same kind of apathy, indifference, and outright resistance of any type of change.
Put those billions of dollars into helping the people who are sick, who are poor, who need shelter, who need public health services, and that includes mental health services too.
What is surprising, and there's a similarity, is not everybody was on board with the civil rights movement back in the early 50s and 60s, and conversely, the same is going on here. People are consistently cherry-picking about the protest movement. They're saying that about looting and rioting, but the reality is they don't want change to happen, and they're using that as a pivot point to justify their indifference and resistance. This is Theo Henderson from Unhoused, and there will be more to follow. This is Theo Henderson from Unhoused, and we are here live in a direct action to prevent people from taking unhoused people's things. As an unhoused member myself, I can tell you how I lost my medication ID on several times. I had to start over, personal papers, awards, and things that I've gotten, and all to start all over again. Here in the studios is a friend of mine, and I will let her tell her what her experiences is of being out here on the street.
Hello. I've been on the street for like a year. It's a little hard, like you get adapted and you get used to it. However, it doesn't really get like it's easy enough when it comes to like showering and like if you have like certain things. I live in California where it's really hot, so you don't want to walk around with all your stuff on the daily. But finding a place to sleep sometimes can be tricky when you have places like sanitation coming every week and people enforcing it. So I'll say probably the easiest part I've had about being homeless is the access to like food. Because there's been like a certain like problem area, I will say, in various parts of LA County, there are a lot of outreach workers that know where to find us and where we can like get food and resources for showering and such things. So That's what I know. If you have any questions, I can answer that.
How did you become out here on the street? Because I know you didn't wake up and say, hey, I think it's going to be great to be out here lugging my stuff in the heat in California.
Right. Well, I had lived in St. Louis for 4 years, where I had myself established, and I had left California to not be homeless. Well, I ended up moving in with my boyfriend of 5 years. Things didn't work out, so I moved back home to California. I stayed with my mom for about 10 months to a year. After that, she ended up moving somewhere else, but she had Section 8, so she can't really have people with her, you know? So with that, you know, I was trying to find shelters. I was working at the Dollar Tree at the time, and I was in school, so it was really hard to like juggle all of those things. So I just got overwhelmed, I guess, you know, and like
it happened.
Tried to find another way and just kind of like found myself short on my luck, you know, but luckily I found a shelter that can help me with housing. So.
Oh, what shelter is that?
I believe it's the Salvation Army, and they work with LA Family Housing.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I could say, so you've got a quicker turnaround than most unhoused people do living out here on the streets.
Yes.
And it is a reality with Section 8 that they are very over the top with their rules, that you are criminalized if you have someone that lives in with you. You have to have this very archaic idea of staying in an impoverished state in order for you to get the help. What would be another way for people to learn about your situation? How could you help them get a better idea of what it's like to live out on the street?
Okay, well, basically, you'll sometimes be tired a lot. And with that, you'll probably drink a whole lot of caffeine. Unfortunately, some people choose drugs, and that's not really the best way. I can give advice, you know, like my best advice would be is if you are on the street, if you're not used to it, or if you're trying to get off the street, stay focused, stay like around the right people, because it can be hard to find the right people when they're, you know, in the same situation as you. You don't know how everyone's handling it, you know. So basically the best way to put it is like you're getting up early, you might have a different outlook on life, you might have to carry less or carry more than your usual, like mentally and physically. So that's what it is.
Can I ask, have you ever had your things taken away from you during the sweep?
I have actually. When I first came down here, I lived near Tyrone. This was my first time like living on the street, like in a tent. And I was told they were doing a sweep. They did it before, so they didn't take our stuff away when we left. But the next week, we came back and all of our stuff was gone because we had it like really hooked up, you know. And yeah, that made me sad because I had a lot of clothes, like, you know, that I actually really liked that my mom gave me or I planned to give to her. So it's just like the things that you do accumulate being homeless. Yeah, they don't last long if you have to really keep an eye on them.
Why do you think people hate unhoused people?
That's a great question, actually. Well, the thing is, I don't think people would hate to see unhoused people, but there is a stereotype. Everything has stereotypes stamped on it. Unfortunately, if you are homeless and you want to be taken seriously, you have to conduct yourself a certain way because you're homeless. That's not your who you are. That's just your situation. But you can't expect the whole world to see that. So, like,
let me actually jump in there right quick because I'm unhoused too. And for example, there are people that live in houses that don't do the right thing, are doing substance use, and we don't hold them to the same standard. And the second thing is that there's a talk among, and I always try to pounce on, is people that deserve to be housed and people that don't. And I think that sometimes even in the unhoused community is that it shouldn't be a punishment that someone's out here. And I think that's one of the things that I wanted to see if we have a shift in thinking to that.
Yes, yeah. Me and my friend actually just had a conversation about that at 3 in the morning this morning. I don't think anyone wants to see anyone unhoused, but okay, so I let her know in California there are like different types of people who are homeless. Some people, I don't know how big or small that number is, but some people,
over 70,000.
Well, okay, that's a lot. Yeah, I know it's a high number. I think we have the highest homeless rate.
Yeah, but here's the thing too.
out of 70,000, people put the whole 70,000 of unhoused people as crack addicts, drug addicts, mentally ill, everybody. And even those that have mental health and illness, you can't magically become sane out here on the street. So, or you can't magically stop doing these substances because you don't have the treatment plans like Malibu, like many of the rich superstars. They go out there.
Exactly, I totally agree with that, actually, yeah. Because that's what I was getting at. I was making a statement that a lot of places where there's homeless areas, you have to like keep it clean. Our tent stays clean inside and out because we don't want any problems. We don't want that, like all homeless people are trashy, messy, stamped on us, We know who we are. We know who our people are or whatever. We're, but it's not about just the stereotype. We want to keep our place to stay. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where we are on the street because it's still, the world is dangerous, So I would say like there's different reasons for people being homeless out here. Very few I've met do it by choice. They want to be on the beach, right? Okay. You could say the majority maybe have done or do drugs, right? Of any kind, alcohol, whatever. But I don't think a lot of them started that way.
No, they didn't. In fact, people have told me they were, before they became unhoused, they were fine, but because it was so stressful and they had to stay up and from getting robbed and things like that, they used something to keep them up. But also, substance usage as well as mental health is a health issue. It means it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. People don't understand that because we're not doctors, but when doctors tell you like, okay, this affecting parts of your brain and it connects with that.
Exactly.
If it was so easy for people to stop doing drugs, people would, many, even in the house community, which a news report just said, there's a high dosage of fentanyl abuse in housing during this pandemic. That ain't got nothing to do with the unhoused people, but you don't see us running around making stereotypes about these housed people that are overdosing on fentanyl or other drugs, having those. So those are the issues that we need to have a conversation to shift on.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I'd also like to point out too that a lot of drug users that I have seen, I didn't grow up around drugs or alcohol or any of those things, so they're still fairly new to me to see how people handle those, right? I would say a lot of the drug users I've seen, at least, are respectable to the point where they don't leave their paraphernalia. They don't do it out in public around, public or children, and that's all you can do. Like, if you can just act civilized, it isn't really what you do, it's how you do it. Unfortunately, a lot of people do it this certain way that's looked down upon, so there's that stereotype.
But then too, the education as well, because harm reduction is a very true thing that we need to talk about, and we need to stop criminalizing people that are on substance usage in order for them to get help. Because if we keep beating them in the head, they're not going to go and get the help. But if we say, you know what, we're going to be more compassionate with you, put places where you can get your treatment and help, then you will see a difference. And what are we going to do about the people that are overdosing in houses? We can't kick in their house and take their things and treat them like they out on the street.
Right, that's very true too. And with that, I think we just have a whole lot of work to do. We really do. I think, like you said, with the mental health, that's really important. That's something we're not talking about, and that's something that isn't spoken a lot about in rural communities. Like, growing up, we didn't really talk about mental health.
Yes.
And that's something we need to, because the rates, people... The streets are really hard. They change you. If you have a really good, healthy spirit and you become homeless, you have to be strong. You have to be around the right people. You have to have some kind of foundation or prayer, something like that. Because mental health will really play a role in your everyday life out here. I have mental health, disorders, and I try to stay on top of it and all those things. But again, being in the street can make it hard when.
How do you stay on top of it if you have mental health challenges?
It's that in itself is a challenge, honestly. It's just to the point where when I'm like, okay, it's become enough because I'm like on the street and then I get too tired and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to, because I can definitely admit that I can work harder in the past I've given myself housing, but like I said, it's a mental thing, because when you fight so many battles being homeless, it's just about the end, like how much more can you take? Can I keep going on? It's like you question your own like strength and sanity, you know? So how I stay on top is I just make it a habit. I stay around people that know me, like support me.
So you have a support system.
I do. I try to keep one, you know, no matter how small.
But what if someone that has mental health issues that don't have the support system? How are they going to be able to get that?
Well, the first thing is evaluating yourself, you know, like if you're feeling some type of way that you feel is really affecting your life, your everyday life, to the point you can't handle your business, to get yourself out of this rut, because it takes work to get out of being homeless.
Indeed, it does.
It does, you know.
And it's a 24-hour job. People think because you're sitting out
here.
Yeah.
And you never know when there's going to be one little thing you're missing or need, or something to kick you out of your place in line for anything. Indeed. Like I said, it took me, you know, a little bit over a year, you know, like to get into the housing. I don't have an ID because I don't have like this paperwork, and I feel for people who aren't from California and don't have any of their paperwork.
I have a story to tell you that is so true. I'm from Chicago, and I got swept and I lost my ID, my birth certificate, social security card, right? So I have to go back. I can't get my social security until I get my birth certificate, and I can't get my birth certificate because it's in Chicago. I can't get the birth certificate because it's closed down to COVID-19. So how in the hell am I supposed to continue to apply for housing if I can't get this thing? And I begged, I've sent letters to, and they just said there's nothing we could do. But so
you don't know who you are. And honestly, I went through the same exact thing. Okay, so before I was homeless, I was like working some pretty good jobs. Like I had an apartment, I travel, and all that stuff. Money wasn't really something I stressed about, right? Until I got older, right? So I lived in New York for a little bit. I didn't have an ID. I just left California. I'm familiar with New York, and I thought there was like ways around me getting an ID, that I could apply for food stamps out there. Use that as proof of residency. And I think I was getting my social mailed in from my cousin, so I was good on that. And then I could use all those to get other things. That didn't go at all how I expected. New York is not playing about their things after 9/11.
No,
they're not
definitely
playing
not.
that. And they go through the system. I believe California does it too now, called a point system. You need to meet the 6-point requirements. If you have most of your things in order, they'll work with you. The manager will. But I didn't have that. Like my proof of residency wasn't enough. You know, anyone, I guess, which is true, could just apply for food stamps. So what did I do? I ended up taking a week-long trip to California on the Greyhound, because that's the only transportation with no ID. Came here homeless. By the way, I had nowhere to sleep. Was actually hustling to like keep money in my pocket, and didn't have like friends at the time, you know. So I had to get all my information from out here. So my only advice is, for anybody who's not from here, if you can somehow, if you have a family member too that can help prove your identity out of state, your best thing is to rack up that money and go out there and just get it done out the way, and boom, bam, come back. Because that was like one of the hardest stressful things, to be on the bus that long. But that's just an example of one of the things you have to go through. It's you know.
I thank you very much for your time, and I was going to say, I forgot that my name is Theo, by the way.
I'm Angel.
I thank you very much for your time and your insight on your experience. This is Theo.
It's crazy.
That's another thing that happens. This is Theo Henderson from Unhoused. I thank you all for listening, and may we again meet in the light of understanding, and I hope that things get better for you too, as Angel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. is Theo Henderson from Unhoused. I'm on the ground in the studio with Shane. Tell us a little bit about what's going on today.
Well, the city and sanitation, they have these things called sweeps that they're doing, where they're taking all the stuff that the homeless have, and just, you know, some of them, they say they're gonna put it away in a storage, but they don't. They don't give you a notice. They just come and they take it all away from you. I'm in a place right now, but I was on Moore Park, and last week, in the process of getting my stuff, they came, and I had 5 officers like blocking me, and they weren't letting me access my stuff. Like, I may be on the streets, but I have kids. I have presents, you know, for their birthdays and shit.
Of course.
They came in and they just took it all. But what's going on here is we're standing up to put a stop to that, because they want to. I'm not too familiar with all that's going on, like with the zones and all this other stuff. All I know is that the police are wrong for what they do. It is injustice. I mean, they have those signs that say protect and serve on the side of their car. They don't protect and they don't serve.
Yes.
Except this.
Yes.
That's the only thing they serve. Like.
Well said. So how long have you, before you had got secure lodging, how long have you been out here?
Out here in Studio City, Van Nuys, North Hollywood, about a year. Overall, 3.5 years. I've been on the streets since I went the way I went.
Well, you know what? If you don't mind me asking, how did you end up out here?
I had my job, my apartment. I had a lawsuit going on with the management of my apartments because it was bug infested, it was roach infested, rat infested, and I was tired of my money coming out of my pocket to try and take care of these varmints that keep coming and coming and coming, and the management not recompensating me. So I tried to go about getting a lawsuit, and in the process, like I didn't pay my rent, so they tried to evict me. I make them, you know, I follow it all the way to the whole 60 days, 90 days, and till day in court it went downhill, and then that was that.
Thank you, Shane. I'm going to mill about a little bit, but thank you for telling us your story, and I tip my hat to you. I think we all could do something. This is a primary example that Shane wants to make sure that the horrible actions that happen to him don't happen to anyone else. I join in the same fight. This is Theo Henderson from Unhoused, and I thank you all for listening. May we again meet in the light of understanding. Carla, you were just telling me a shocking story. This is Theo Henderson, of course, with Unhoused. So tell us what's going on. You said someone got arrested.
So we are here today in Van Nuys, California. We are blocking a special enforcement cleanup zone, which is a really cruel practice where people's entire belongings and lives are being demolished by LA Sanitation with the enforcement of LAPD and the cooperation of LASA. So we are here to reject that and say no, people will not be swept, we will not be destroying communities. So someone was arrested during one of those sweeps. It took 30 cops to enforce it, and when we tested the line, they snatched somebody as they were walking away. So we're very upset about that, but we're also trying to hold a few things. The fact that like we're here for a goal, which is to stop these inhumane practices of sweeps and to reject the SEZ, the Special Enforcement cleanup zones. But you know, in the process of their violent enforcement, they did arrest somebody here.
You stated there were how many cops again?
There were over 30 police officers that were there to enforce it. What they were doing was they were sweeping someone's belongings, someone that we knew who had been shot and was not able to attend to his things. So they said because he was not able to be there, it was considered vacant, and they destroyed everything that he owned. And it was someone we knew, and we said, he's in the hospital, he's not able to claim his belongings, can we help him? And they said no, and they destroyed everything that he owned in front of our eyes.
I had a similar thing happen to me over 4 years ago. I was in ICU for several months due to me being stabbed, and when I got back, all of my things were taken and gone. And when they told me to go back down to reclaim it, none of my stuff was there because it basically was gone. So the bottom line is this is something that's a common practice. What the city does with they don't care if you're not there or in the hospital or having life happen to you. They just take your things. So what's the next step in order for us to? How can citizens hold police, sanitation, and the council members accountable? Because it seems like they are really doing criminal activities and they just get the support of some NIMBYs.
We need cops out of these cleanups entirely. Like, people don't need to be swept away. We demand a full end to Care Plus meaning it's cops that help enforce this. People need real services. We need healthcare. We need people need to eat. People need to be taken care of, and we need to take care of each other. So cops need to not be here for that. Right now under coronavirus, no one should be moved. So the SES goes against that, and they're sweeping people up entirely, and it's a public health concern for everybody that lives here. So we don't need the cops here to do this. Like, we need more community support. It was the city council that passed this, actually, so they're the ones that approved this, and they're the ones responsible for this cruelty. They all are. They are all complicit in this cruelty, and what we know is brutality against our unhoused brothers and sisters, and it's something that affects all of us, honestly. Like, we all lose with these practices.
Let's talk about legislative, because I've noticed there are times when citizens put things on the ballot. What if we put something on the ballot that would hamstring LAPD and the city council for preventing them from doing this kind of thing? Do you think that's possible?
I think anything is possible, honestly. I think if we're organized, like today we're stopping the sweep, but yeah, we need broad scale changes. I think it should be informed by unhoused people, and we take direction from there because they know what's up. And so yeah, I would say like those are where the answers are coming from, and we gotta listen.
Well said. Thank you very much, Carla. I want to say as well, this is one of ongoing sweeps that has been happening during coronavirus. People have reached out to me and asked me the question, are there sweeps going on? I said they were going through it during the pandemic. They've just been sneaky about it, but now they're not opening, being in the dark about it. They're being pretty open and pretty defiant with it. As well as the police officers are targeting and taking pictures of people who have the temerity to stand up. So they really are not concerned about the rights of unhoused people. They just want to retaliate. So this is Theo Henderson from We the Unhoused. I thank you all for listening, and may we again meet in the light of understanding. This is Unhoused News. 7 shelters are left open after 26 city houseless shelters were opened during COVID-19. The remaining unhoused residents were parceled out to the streets and at other remaining shelters. In other news, Long Island anti-unhoused protesters resisted plans to turning an old hotel into a houseless family shelter. One resident has said, "How is the family shelter where families lodged near me are able to have a shelter and get free stuff, whereas I don't get any of those kind of things and I work for a living?" On a more violent note, the Guardian Angels are up in membership and targeting the unhoused community. In previous times, the Guardian Angels were engaged in vigilantism and attacking unhoused community members. In Venice Beach, there has been reports of arsons against unhoused encampments. The police has not actively investigated into these claims, despite repeated requests from the protests and asking for council member Mike Bonin to investigate into the matter. The Los Angeles Times has reported that the Advocate Hotel program discriminates against disabled people. Rich people are planning a crusade against shelters. The residents say they are scared. They are worried about their children and their elderly. What they did as a solution is they created a nonprofit, raised funds, hired a lawyer, and threatened the city to sue if they created a houseless shelter in their communities. One resident stated that crime has went up after 10 people were moved in from downtown. 19 unhoused people died during the heat wave that swept the nation. To add more complications to the matter, we've had several brush fires that's made the breathing index much more perilous. The unhoused has had to ingest the ash, the sweltering heat, and as constant demands from Services Not Sweeps, Cape Town for All, Street Watch, and public shaming attempts to get the city to open up cooling centers, they hastily opened up 4. In far-flung places with poor information to be gathered, as well as once it was open and closed at a short amount of time, they stated that there were no one that attended these cooling centers. This is Theo Henderson from Unhoused, and I am on another episode. This is a multi-layered topic. Right now, the city has shut down the emergency shelters that was necessary for the unhoused in COVID-19. To that end, many of the unhoused had been thrown unceremoniously on the street, and then they have been giving a false narrative to the Los Angeles Times and other media outlets and saying that the grassroots organizations are lying about the abuse that's going on in the streets with the brutal sweeps, especially the special enforcement zones, what they call SEXZs. So, to that end, the grassroots organizations like Street Watch and other affiliated organizations have pooled their resources together and did what the city did not. They got the unhoused off the streets and gave them a place where they can go and be in a lovely air-conditioned room. I'm so grateful I'm in an air-conditioned room where they have their own bathroom, their own shower. They don't have to feel the indignities like they are criminal. They don't have to feel the hostility of the NIMBY environment, as well as the hostility of the police and the city. To that end, I have one of the people that are in the hotel. We're going to talk to her a little bit about it. Well, Jessica, so tell me a little bit about what's going on. I see you got an Elvis Presley thing here, so.
Yes, they put us here at the motel, and it helps out a lot.
So how long have you been here?
Going on, I believe, 5 days.
So what happened? Why did you guys get a hotel? Tell me about that.
Well, we've been homeless. Me and my husband, we've been homeless for going on 3 years already.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been signed up for mini housing, and we haven't had any word on anything yet. I was panhandling at the moment when he ran into Ash, I believe her name's Ashley.
Ashley from Ground Game.
Yes.
Yes.
And she's the one that talked to him about the motel. And when he told me, I cried, and I couldn't stop crying.
Why not? Why were you crying?
It had been over 2.5 months that I had taken a shower. You know, it had been a while since I had slept on a bed. You know, so it was real overwhelming. It was like, I was so excited. I was like, can we go right now? Can we go right now? You know, and he's all, well, we have to wait until they call us. And I said, okay. And they called us and they brought us over here. I haven't got out of bed since then.
I felt the same because I was living in the park and I injured my ankle. And so I was on a walker when COVID-19 happened. Oh my God, you have no idea. Just to go to the bathroom, it took me like a good 2 hours to find a place to go to the bathroom. And you can forget trying to get something to eat. So I do know, so when I finally had a place to stay, I was basically bedbound myself. And the idea to have the showers, you know, to take a leisurely shower without worrying about someone knocking on the door at a Starbucks telling you gotta get out and go and those kind of things. So you were saying too, I'm not petite, you were saying some of the difficulties as a young lady that you have when you're out on the street, like your cycle. Let's talk a little about that.
Well, it's hard being, you know, chubby out in the world, you know, is one thing, but then to have your menstrual, and you know, everybody knows that when a woman is chubby, her menstrual is extra heavy. You know, so it was very, very hard for me out there every month. And I'm not one that has a cycle for 2-3 days. I go for like 8 days, and you know, lately I've been having a lot of health issues. You know, they recently found a lump on my left breast. It hurts a lot. So sometimes when I do go take a bath, I soak my whole body in pure hot water, and it feels so good. I've fallen asleep in the bathtub, and my husband keeps telling me, "Don't do that. You can drown. You can drown." I tell him I don't care. It relieves the pain so much. But yeah, being out in the street and having a menstrual and having difficulties, like my legs, they've gone so swollen lately. I don't know why they have been so swollen lately. Like, it hurts just to even walk, you know, from here to the store, to the liquor store that's not even a block away. You know, I cried because it hurts. It hurts so bad. So I can imagine, you know, when I see other people that are out there chubby, it breaks my heart because it hurts. It hurts. You know, I tell Angel, I'm not skinny like you. I can't walk, you know, the way you can, you know, and he's the one that does all the running around for us, and I know it gets irritating being out in the heat, you know, it does. It does, but like I tell him, you have to understand where I'm coming from. My legs hurt, you know, they hurt really bad. My whole body has hurt it this past year. This whole past year, my body has literally drained me a lot. I don't know why. Like, I'm scared to keep going to the doctor and find out that I have something seriously wrong with me, you know, because I'm not home with my daughter, you know. My daughter is my support. She's my everything, you know. She's the one I cry to about everything, you know. But being here in a county where I'm not from, it's even more difficult. But I'd rather be in this county because Sacramento County does not help.
I mean, where you said Sacramento County, how long have you been out on the streets?
3 years.
What caused you guys to be on the street? Because you mentioned a little bit about it. Can you tell the audience?
Well, I met him at Union Station. I was on a 4-hour delay.
Okay.
And I was on my way back to Sacramento, and I met him there. And from the moment I met him, I was like, I'm going to come back to see you. And he's like, okay. And I told him, but I'm the type that if I come back to see you, I'm not going to just see you for a couple of days and then go back. That's not me. So I came and I haven't left him since then. I mean, I go home and I go and I visit my kids for a week or two or sometimes a month, and then I come back. But yeah, I haven't been back like to stay for good. You know, I love LA County. They help the homeless a lot. You know, there's like the refresh spot is what I'm talking about, where you can go and shower and wash up. And I mean, during Christmas season, they give you so many Christmas presents on Skid Road, and over there in Sacramento, they don't do that. They do not do that at all.
You're correct. One of the things that what people that don't know for the audience is this is due to the active people. It's not the city that does a lot of these things. It's the people that are grassroots organizations that see an injustice, beg the city, and the city, their answer, unfortunately, is police violence, police harassment, and they side with the business owners in saying that unhoused people are criminals. So a lot of places like Streetwatch, DSA, Los Angeles Community Action Network, which is downtown, is responsible for every Sunday for food. K-Town for All, that comes out Saturdays and does outreach. Polo Pantry, which deals with the food distribution areas and different hubs all over Los Angeles, California. And I think she's expanding. Melissa Asadero. These programs are so pivotal, and without them, there would not be a lot of those things that you're talking about, because they see a need. They keep pushing the fire to the city, and the city, their responses is always more special enforcement zones, more criminality, as well as more hostility. So this is one of the things that's very heartwarming to hear, that you guys are getting more things than Sacramento County. You mentioned your husband has some challenges that he can't come with you with back there. What's going on there?
Well, because he's on parole.
Okay.
And so he has rules and regulations, and he's not allowed out of LA County yet. So that's why I come here and I stay here with him. But, you know, I just can't wait. I'm going to be going back and picking up. My daughter gave us a car so we can at least live in. It's a little SUV. And so we're, hopefully, you know, when I come back, he's determined to do Postmates, you know, and maybe Lyft or something, you know, because it's a 2004 vehicle, so it's a good car. You know, I want him to get on the ball so we can get somewhere in life, because just...
Well, it's difficult if he has a record on probation because they judge it against him. So that also may not always be his fault. What would be a better, beside the car, because that breaks my heart to hear that, what would be a better way to help you? Because most of the people that have accepted hotels, with myself included, refuse to go to shelters. I know, obviously know the shelters is not the answer. So what's another best way of us can help you? But would you be open to affordable housing?
Yes. Like we've been, because I'm from Sacramento County and my points were high, they were supposed to give me an emergency housing. That was 3 years ago. And, you know, I'm still on the list, and, you know, I've been waiting. So I've been with People's Concern, with LASA, and, you know, all I can do is sit here and wait, you know.
Do you have Section 8?
No, I don't.
Well, see, because of the waiting list, of course. But, I too had been waiting. I was on Section 8, and I'm still on Section 8. And, you know, I understand COVID-19 makes things a little challenging, but prior to that, it's been a bumpy road.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
Yes, it has.
So, you know, supportive housing would be a good thing for you, as well as have you been able to go to the doctor to check on the health issues?
They told me to go see a specialist, but I'm very scared because I don't have my daughter here with me.
Oh, I see.
And Bertie, my Medi-Cal, just got transferred this month to Los Angeles County.
Okay.
So now I told my husband I can go to the doctor now, but, you know, I'm scared because I know my body, and I know there is something wrong with me. And I'm scared to hear it without my daughter being there, you know. I understand I have my husband, but it's not the same.
I understand.
My daughter has always been very supportive of me, you know. And my son just came home from his Mormon mission.
Oh,
and so,
really?
Yeah, so he makes sure I eat. Like, he'll send me Postmates every other day, you know. He says, Mom, are you hungry? And I tell him yes. But, you know, it breaks my heart to have to depend on my kids because I'm their parent. They should depend on me. My son's 24.
Well, it's back. Sometimes your children have to look after your parents because you looked after them when they were growing up. So I'm sure they don't feel begrudged by it. They want to make sure you're doing okay and be around for their children.
Yeah, they're good kids. They did a good job. Their dad did a good job raising them.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, I was in their life, but I went to prison when they were young, and when I came out, it was just I went haywire after that. So you know. My daughter raised my son, actually, my youngest son, and she did a real good job. I give my daughter that credit. She did a real good job. You know, he went to his Mormon mission, and I'm proud of my kids. I'm very proud of my kids. He's a Mormon? Yes, yes. Okay. Well, we're all Mormon, but okay. I'm not active Mormon right now because...
I knew of the Mormons when I was going to college in Utah. And, you know, when you said the Mormon, like, wow, this is all the way out here. So do you guys you guys still go back to Utah or
No. He just, like I said, he just came home from his Mormon mission. But my other kids, they don't practice it. Yeah. Okay. They got older and... You know, they don't practice it no more.
Okay. So, what talents do you have? Would you have any special skills or anything that you do that you do when you have to decompress or take the stress off?
I love cooking and cleaning. Oh my God, I love cooking and cleaning.
And I love eating, but a little too much, but you know.
Me too, don't worry. Yes, I love cooking and cleaning. I've been paid to clean, like I can clean 80 acres. I cleaned 80 acres before, and you know, that was a lot. It took me, you know, a week to clean it, and that was a lot, you know. But I did yard work when I was in prison. I used to work, you know, yard crew, and in the main kitchen. So when it comes to cooking and cleaning, I love it. You know, that's my me time. I always tell my husband, I'm sorry, but I need my me time. Like, this is my me time right now.
Yes, I understand. We all need it. And that's one of the things that I always try to do to explain to people is like, being unhoused doesn't mean you lose everything about yourself. Like when I started this podcast, I'm so surprised that you could. I said I didn't become a moron, or I didn't become, you know, I am disabled, but you know, I'm more than just being unhoused. I'm more than being structurally challenged. And if you don't see you see us as a problem to be put away or sit in a distance way, or you listening to those letters from NIMBY people, which council members do, you dehumanize us. You make sure we're not human so you can justify horrific things. That is reminiscent of my own ancestry of slavery. That's reminiscent of the Nazi era. That's reminiscent of any time you oppress a certain slice of humanity. And I want to let our audience members know that. What would be, I ask this, what would be a good way to help you? What would you like to do to help another person? What message would you like to send to the other audience about your situation?
The best thing I can tell people is just to be themselves. It doesn't matter if there's someone from the law, someone from the you know, someone high power than you. Just no one's superior than nobody. Always be true to yourself. Don't ever change. You know, even if you're homeless or not, don't ever change. And a lot of people are rude to us, you know, and a lot of people are not. You know, just the other day I went to go panhandle, and within not even 2 hours I had made like $20. You know, and I'm so grateful for the people that do help out there, because there is people that do care. There is people like and my sign said hungry. You know, I was hoping to get food, not money, because I can't get up and go. I don't, you know, it's hard to get up and go to the store. So, you know, I wasn't asking for money. I was asking for food. And you know, there is people out there that do care and that do respect us, and that they do, you know, talk to us at the same level they're at. They don't degrade us, and they don't down look at us.
Have you had any police bothering you guys or anything?
Oh,
like that?
No.
Oh, good,
No.
good.
The only thing when they do bother us, they tell us we can't charge, and they make us leave.
Charge where?
Like wherever we would try to charge our equipment out in the street.
Okay.
They would run us off immediately. They would run us off. You know.
How would they know that you're charging? Did someone tell them?
Well, because we would go like wherever there's an outlet to charge, like wherever there's light,
train station?
trees. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wherever there's trees with lights on them, we would go and charge, and right away, you guys gotta go. You can't charge there. So it's hard out there when you want to charge, you know, or when there's some.
What if you had a doctor's appointment and you needed a phone to be charged and you can't do that?
Yeah, they didn't.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah, okay.
They don't care.
Okay,
You know,
well.
that's one of the main problems in LA, is that the charging for the homeless is the charging. They run us off right away. You know, and it's sad, because I've seen people on monitors that if they don't charge their leg, they go to jail. Well, they go to jail. I've seen it.
With the help of the police not having you have a place to charge it. So this is a whole sick cycle. We have a blaming and shaming society, and this is the part where police in the city take their hands into this. And I hope more of our citizens understand the unintended consequences, and when we blindly believe everything that the police do, that they're just not doing their job. They're doing a lot of harm to society, and we need to change that conversation. This is Theo Henderson from Unhoused, and I hope we learned something today, and I hope we again meet in the light of understanding. Thank you very much. This is Theo Henderson from Unhoused. We are here in Los Angeles, California, at a hotel that grassroots have put together to do what the city won't do. The city has been tasked, due to the COVID-19, to house the unhoused in order for them to get a chance to get some housing, some permanent solution. And lately, in the past month and a half, actually 2 months now, that the city has been shutting down the shelters where the unhoused were staying and unceremoniously putting them on the streets. The grassroots like Street Watch, Ground Game, K-Town for All, other organizations that are volunteer-based, they do not get a paycheck like the city does, have pooled money together to keep the unhoused that they have been targeted by those special enforcement zone sweeps to get a place to stay, a place to take a shower, a air-conditioned place where they don't burn up all day and have no water and no shade and any kind of shelter during these horrific forest fires times, high heat, and the other elemental distresses. I'm here to interview Angel, who has his own story, and I would like to hear about it. Without further ado, Angel, welcome.
Hi.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your story. How did you become on the streets?
Well, I mean, I've been a vago, a little miscreant since I was a kid, and...
How long have you been in prison?
The first time, 3 years. The second time, 15 years. And I just recently finished serving 2 years with half sentence. So.
Did you get out early due to COVID release?
No. I mean, I just barely did a violation, and they're not letting us out in the county. In fact, everything is locked down. Every module is locked down. You can't go to court unless you've had COVID-19. You know what I mean? So if you haven't had it, they pretty much quarantine you, and you're just stuck in limbo.
Dang. So what if it's time you be released, or the judge have found new evidence that you're innocent? You can't go and...
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've seen people get arrested for possession and robberies and stuff like that, and they cite them out, and then others they don't. But once you go into the county jail, you're pretty much in limbo. Like, you wait till they call you, and you can miss court 4 or 5 times, and you haven't even... There's guys that haven't even been to preliminary hearing, and or even their arraignment. Their arraignment's supposed to be within 3 days, and they haven't been to arraignment in about 2 months. So it's
how is that legal? I mean,
I told that to the judge, and what the judge told me was that the 7th Circuit Court handed down a decision saying that they could extend due process to a reasonable amount of time. And that kind of made me mad, and I challenged the court. Cause I told them, I go, look, I'm on parole, and I'm on an ankle monitor, and I can't charge my device because I'm homeless. So you're holding me accountable for my responsibilities to my terms of conditions, but you're not holding the state accountable. How is that even fair?
Right.
It was good for the goose, it's good for the gander.
Yeah, right.
Come on now.
Right.
And he agreed, and they gave me 180, but he suspended 60 days because I had merit. So he gave me a break.
Oh. So one of the things too is like difficulty living on the street. One of the difficulties I was talking with your wife about is like the charging situation. How are you able? Did you have any challenges trying to find the charge for the ankle monitor or anything like that?
Yeah, everywhere we went. I mean, I call them electric watering holes because everybody who's
I like that one.
It congregates. We all get together, and everybody has multiple devices, like cell phones, Bluetooth speakers, chargers, portables, and flashlights, and all kinds of weird shit that everybody comes up with. So, excuse my language, but when we're together, there's only so much we can do. So we pretty much just camp out. And with the COVID-19, either security or PD comes around and they say we have to go. So it was damn near impossible to charge my device. So I mean, we would tap into the light poles, you know what I mean, and pretty much steal electricity from the city.
Yeah.
But even that gets us in trouble too. With sanitation coming around and kicking everybody out. You know what I mean? And it's a big risk. It's a hassle. You can't do it. Parole says I should go to the parole office to charge, and you can't do that because they're shut down. You can't go to the police station to charge because it's shut down. So what's left? And next thing you know, I'm being violated for it, and it's people like the ones that places here have actually given me, now I'm good, I'm in compliance, you know, so I don't have to worry about it, but my parole officer still doesn't know I'm in a room, so that might get me in trouble. So see, it's like a damned if I do and a damned if I don't.
This is the unspoken things that people don't understand about what parole violations, and we have a hard time understanding the nuances and how the city doesn't help. They sometimes harm because you're trying to do the right thing, and you can't do the right thing because there's no places for you to go. Like I was mentioning to your wife about my health challenges and the difficulty just having a phone to charge. What if I have exactly? Because you know I have complications and I can't charge. I was at the park, and I used to charge my phone at the park, and they got wind of that and they didn't like it. So what they would do is they would block the phones. And then when I asked the director at the time, they told me to go to the library, and I told her the library doesn't open in 24 hours. That's not their problem. They just didn't want. The idea is they have such a embedded anti-unhoused sentiment about it, and they use the same things like your criminality and things like that to justify doing the things that they do. They unplug and cut off the power for the other part of the park and things like that.
That's what they did in City Hall, because right there on First, down in downtown LA on First and Main, and between it's on First between Main and Spring, there's a little park. Okay, and they have light sockets throughout the whole park, and then along the sidewalk, when the lights come on, the sockets are active as well. So people would start plugging in there. And then at City Hall there was like 3 outlets that were good. In the mall downstairs there was 2. So people would know about these places and we would go, but little by little the city started cutting the wires to those sockets, so nobody can charge their devices, nobody can charge their things, you know, and eventually we go to plug in, boom, no longer works. And then next, you know, PD's coming around talking about, well, if you plug in, we're gonna get you for trespassing, you know, and I would be like, well, arrest me then, you know.
And see, this is and I say this to the mainstream media because mainstream media takes at face value what the city says. Go and investigate these things for yourself and see the lies that they're doing. Maybe we can make some changes on it. Because I had something like that too. I would go to the train station and try to charge there, and then all of a sudden here comes cops talking about, do you have a bus pass? Or you're supposed to be using that bus pass to go or to and fro, not just stay on the platform. So they would do, and I've seen other unhoused people charging their phones on there too.
Yeah, right there on
Chinatown on Union Station, they used to have some spots too for people.
Yeah, they cut those off. Yeah. They turn them off. Now everybody's going to Western and Vermont or Western in that area. As soon as the train pulls up, you'll see a bunch of people along the way.
Or even on the Southwest section, Southwest Station, they got one there, and then they had one near. They had one in Chinatown. They had one in Union Station, and they had another one
in Chinatown.
And Lincoln Heights. They used to have one over there, right off of there.
In Chinatown, I used to go to. You go into Chinatown. You go to the second floor, and there's like these apartments. Yeah. These, you know, and there's one plug that works. Yeah. And security wouldn't really trip on me. Yeah. Or anybody, as long as we weren't smoking or doing drugs or acting a fool. As long as we cleaned up after ourselves. But once COVID-19 kicked in, even they started kicking us out, you know. And so I moved to Boyle Heights, and there was there's actually this mechanic shop where the guy told me, he goes, look, once we close, he goes, you're welcome to use the socket right here. I'll leave the power on because the power's from the outside. He goes, I'll leave the power on. Once we shut down, just clean up after yourself, man, and make sure that nobody messes with the, you know. And I told him, hey, man, I'll be your watchdog, bro. Don't even trip, you know. And I did that for a minute, and when my wife came home, I didn't go back to Boyle Heights, but I mean that's always like a last, like if you know, last resort. That would be where I would go.
Or further down into like the valley, North Hollywood. I used to, this is one of my secrets. They used to have further down at the end, they used to have a spot. But the thing is now they got the security patrolling, so you can't really do that. Or if you have noticed, like on the benches, like if you go to like Wilshire and Western, they got places there, but it looks like it's locked, but all you have to do is pull it and you can go in and charge it from there too. So there are different places, but I notice more and more the city has banded together with the NIMBYs and they're shutting all of it off and making it everything.
Everything.
And then when I notice when mainstream media confronts them, they lie. They make it sound like that they are not
what
part
it
of the problem.
is everybody is there's, it seems like they're hurting us.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're shutting us down for certain places and booming us more and more in a condensed area.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Kind of like what they got going in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Sacramento, it's illegal to be homeless. You have to either be on the island.
Mm-hmm.
If not, you get arrested. And from what my wife tells me, the island is a dangerous place.
Oh my God!
Even the cops don't go in there.
Mm.
And basically, that's what they're trying to do here. I've been noticing that, and I'm
the Olympics is coming up too.
That's what it is.
What it
That
is.
they don't want the world to see the homeless problem because it embarrasses them. Well, if it embarrasses you, well, guess what? Why don't you do something about it?
And if it embarrasses you, imagine how it feels for people that's living it. That's less like you can go home and put it. They can go and lay down, head down, and turn the light off. But being unhoused is a 24-hour proposition. It's a moment-to-moment situation. No one delights in being harassed by the police or terrorized by some NIMBY that don't like unhoused people, that think all unhoused people are drug addicts and are going to attack them and things like that.
Like me, I became homeless because I went to prison. I lost my family. I lost my home. I lost everything. I got divorced. I can't really go with any family members. I'm a really proud man. Real talk. I got a lot of pride. It takes a lot for me to even ask somebody for 10 cents. You know, my wife, she had no business being out here on the street. She has family, she has a home, but she's out here because I'm out here. And it's unfair to her. But, man, I had already got a job at this place called the Center for Employment Opportunity, CEO, new program that opened up. It's kind of like Chrysalis, but better. These people actually help you get a job. And they give you incentives. They stay with you throughout the year to make sure that you stay employed.
Right.
The problem was that when COVID-19 kicked in, it shut down the program. So there went my job.
Yeah.
And I'm a skilled worker, but I mean, I'll flip burgers or whatever. But it's not that easy for one of us to get off the street. Like, for instance, I'm divorced, and I was getting GR, and I was getting food stamps. Well, they suspended them because in their records it shows that I'm still married, so they're saying that my ex-wife is responsible for me. Wait a minute, she has my child. How the hell is she going to be responsible for me? Okay? And not only that, even if you're married, you could still apply separately for food stamps. So how are you going to suspend mine because in your records it says I'm still married?
But here's the thing too, because I applied for GR too. It's very difficult to try to appeal the decisions. Why? The offices are closed. You can't get no damn mind. It took me like over 6 hours calling back because the lines are busy. This is a mess that people are not even factoring
in order for me to get the paperwork they require, I need the money because they're charging me damn near $100 just to get the paper, and I can't get the paper without the money. So I GR and give me money, so I'm like in a bad situation. What do I do? Go rob somebody? Well, guess what? I'm not gonna do that. You know, I'm trying to walk this. I'm trying to be as honorable as possible. But being out here, you know, you kind of toe that line. You know, you see something and you look at it and you're like, man, if I take that, I can sell it and come up on, you know, it's a quick come up. But I refuse to sink that low, man. And just because I'm homeless doesn't mean that I have to lower my standards as a human being. You know, but people out there, like the city officials, they don't see that. They don't see people as individuals.
Absolutely not. They look at NBC's Streets of Shame. They listen to the NIMBYs talking about threatening to sue them, and then they do these horrific kind of Holocaust kind of horrific actions. So this is one of the ways to help you. Would you choose housing or shelter? What would be your choice?
See, to me, shelters are they're okay, but they're not a solution because shelters, they only give you a cot, a blanket, and a warm meal. They don't really go out to find you housing. Now, the one that I was in, it was called El Pueblo. It opened up. It was kind of like the mayor's project.
Yeah.
I was one of the first 45 that was in that program.
Oh, okay.
And everybody that has been in that program that got there with me have already got either an SRO or low income housing. These people are actually doing something. My problem was that there was a conflict between my parole officer and them.
Go ahead.
because they wouldn't verify that I was there. My parole officer was like, look, if I can't be here, neither can you. And she removed me from there. She violated me for a curfew violation. And ever since then, I've been unstable. I haven't been able to find a permanent housing. And I'm on their records, but I'm not. They got to do paperwork, but they haven't. And the people from LASA and the people from People's Concern pretty much have me in limbo. Okay, one of them, they have me on their roster, but I've been dropped. But I'm still active. How is that even possible? Okay, so why am I not housed?
So
why haven't I been matched?
you're falling through the cracks through to bureaucratic bullshit, basically. Bureaucratic crap that has been set in thanks to the industrious work of a parole officer you could have been housed, and they could have been able to make you compliant, do whatever you needed to do in a house. So in essence, this was an ego trip along with bureaucratic nonsense.
Right. And the new agent I have, she's pretty lenient as to my curfews and this and that. She hasn't violated me. She violates me over actual things I do. So I owe that woman a lot. But she's also offered to put me in this place called the Orion House. I've been kicked out of there because it's like going back to the Orion House is like going back in custody.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell her, well, you might as well lock my ass back up because you're basically putting me back in jail. And the Orion House isn't for me because they don't help you get housing. They just maintain you for 6 months. Once that funding runs out, you're out. So I'll be back out on the street with no solution. You know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm able to work. I want to work. But there's other things that I need to be responsible for out here on the street, like taking care of my property. And if I'm not there, with all these weirdos running around, you got a lot of very unstable people out there, and sometimes you think they're cool, and then all of a sudden they've channeled Dracula. You know what I mean? And you realize that they're kind of like off the rocker, and you realize, like, whoa, my own was crazy. But you gotta watch yourself, and you gotta watch the people you love. You can't just leave them hanging. So it's a difficult thing for us to do. And shelters are not really helpful because you have a lot of those mentally unstable people. So if you get into a fight in there, or somebody tries to do something, to take something, it's gonna be a problem. There's always fights breaking out there. PD's always there. I mean, I've seen people get killed inside the shelter, and they don't realize they're dead until like it's time for them to clean up, and they're like, oh shit, we got a dead body here. You know what I mean? And they treat it like if it's nothing. They have no respect for even the deceased. They just treat them as okay, we just gotta take out the garbage, and it's not right. Now El Pueblo and the new one that's coming up, the bridge. Now those places, they actually do care more than the city does. They actually do more. So, I commend them for that. But I'm falling through the cracks in that program. I'm in that program, but I'm not falling into the cracks. This was a blessing for us. They came in and asked me. Actually, they offered me some water, and I asked her if she was the one that was handing out rooms, and Ashley said yes. And next thing you know, we're in a room for 2 nights, and then extended me a third, and then gave me 3 more, and I'm like, what the hell, me and my wife?
And they also currently are working. These are, again, I want to point out for Ground Gang, these people are not paid staff, that these people are volunteers. They're working to get more money for you guys to
that's
stay
what
up.
That's
the irony of it. And
that's why I love these people so much, because
what they offer for you is a jail cell or criminalization, or so this is what your city tax dollars is at work at. So
and these people are actually coming out of pocket. I mean,
on their own pocket.
I met Ian because he was recording when they did the first cleanup, and my wife wasn't there. She had left, and I was by myself, and we had a lot of stuff. So Ian comes around and he's recording, and I got mad. I told him, like, hey, I didn't give you permission to record. Turn off your damn camera, bro. And I snapped at him, and he did. You know what I mean? But then that's when I realized, he goes, yeah, it's just that we're filming that what the city's about to do. And I'm like, what the city's about to do? So then when he told me, I was like, so I started packing up what I could. That day, I had to let go of at least half of my property and hers. And I made like 4 trips, and I was trying to get everything out, and PD was rushing me, threatening to arrest me, and I'm arguing with PD. And Ian came up and helped me move the first trip I went, and then he stayed behind to watch my stuff as I came back for the rest. My son had got assaulted at the same time when he was in 7-Eleven, so now my attention is split up with my son being not only assaulted, but they were arresting him for it, okay, because it was with the clerk at 7-Eleven, which still has a job, by the way, and I'm over here trying to get my stuff, and I'm arguing with this cop. Now, the cop already has his hand on the gun, and I'm already getting aggressive, like, you know, I got the case of the f***its now, like, f*** it, run it then, pull your gun and shoot, if not, I'm gonna tase you with your own gun, fool, like, real talk. I'm making threats to this officer now, and I'm telling him, you know, I'll be damned if you take my shit. You ain't taking my stuff, bro. You know what I mean? And the only way you're taking is if I'm dead, bro. Real talk. And another officer, he was black. The one I'm arguing with is Mexican. You know, and this black cop comes up and he goes, "Give me your bike." And I was like, "You ain't taking my bike. It was a birthday gift from my wife. You know, you ain't taking my bike." He goes, "Man, give me your bike. I'm gonna help you move it." Oh, in that case, here, take it. And the cop actually helped me move. But I still lost half of my stuff. The following week, they came through with the bulldozers and took the rest. They took the rest of what I had left. And so now we have no clothes. We have all our personal items. I mean, the only thing we were able to save was a wish tree. You know what I mean? Because that's like me and my wife's beacon. You know, we call it our beacon. And we were able to save the wish tree and a few little items. You know, I mean, this tree is a pain in the ass, but it means something to us. You know, and there's no way in hell that I'm gonna lose it. Hell, I tried to destroy it because I was mad and it wouldn't break. You know, so it's more of a symbol of our resolve, really. You know, of trying to make it through this. You know, and we will. You know, especially with people helping us out like Ashley and Jed and Ian. You know, this has been a real blessing for us.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it took my mind back to the time when I got swept and lost my stuff, and one of the times when me and my editor were there, they would ran me out to the park and things like that. So I know the people don't understand the rage that you feel. It's like all that you have, and some jackass that has a badge and a gun wants to takes a bulldozer and takes all of your stuff. Like, I've lost my medicine, I've lost IDs, I've had to start over so many times within my 6 years, man. It's like, so just I know, because I mean,
it's like this, like, you know, it's like the saying says, you can do a million good deeds in life, and then you make that one mistake, and everybody forgets that good deeds, and they remember that mistake. You know, and it's everybody that's on the street has a story. You know, mine's not unique. But a lot of people get swept up with the drugs, and not only that, but their mental health deteriorates as the time goes by because you lose hope. You know, and hope can be paralyzing sometimes too, because you get stuck in a state of limbo where you're hoping for the best, but you're getting nothing but, you know, Murphy's Law is kicking your ass. You know, and you know, to hell with Murphy. I'll whoop his ass one of these days, and I'm gonna get out of here, you know. But it's difficult, you know. But we just keep pushing. I mean, it's created a lot of problems with my wife and I, and we currently have some serious issues in our relationship. But you know, you don't give up on the ones you love. And her being out here with me when she don't have to be, it makes me love the woman even more, you know, because she's. You know, she's in it till the wheels fall off. I mean, right now our wheels are wobbly, you know. But, you know, we're pushing, you know.
Wow, that's excellent and wonderful to hear that. I have to say, I thank you guys for telling me your stories, and I hope that, and I am very confident that you guys, things are going to look up for you guys and get better. And I hope you guys get a few more days to stay here, and hopefully someone out there can help financially, or some clothes and things like that. I mean, to help just whatever.
If you find anybody who's looking for a worker, bro, I'm game to do anything from flipping a burger, washing dishes, I'll polish shoes. I don't give a damn what it is, as long as it brings some financial stability to us. And I'm a skilled worker. I know I'm a machine operator. I'm a skilled roofer. I mean, I got skills, and I'm a hard worker. So it's hard for me to go to work though right now because I got no transportation. And, you know, I would like to at least get some stability first, and then be able to hit the ground running. You know, once I feel more confident. You know, because being out here, man, it taxes your confidence too. You know, you start feeling worthless.
And listening to the narrative that's being pushed about you.
Right. You know, you start, you know, we start believing our own propaganda. You know what I'm saying? The propaganda against it, we start believing, well, damn, what if I am useless? You know, it's like, oh, you know, but we're worth it out here. You know, there are people out here that are still worth it.
Now, I want to point out something before I close out, is that this is the effect, the consequences that the city and others have done. I had a family that lives out on the street, and there was many years ago a study that was dealing with kids, black and white, where they were to choose a baby doll. Which one was the beautiful baby doll, the kind baby doll, and the ugly baby doll, or the black one. Many of the blacks would choose the white doll, and the persons that they would consider evil and dirty and bad were the black. And so when people talk about the unhoused are a danger to their children, and you hear this all the time, it's challenging for adults to do it. But imagine for example, the unhoused woman with the 10 children, and you're saying that, and your children go to school. What do you think that they think after hearing what you say? So if you want to change things, if you truly have this heart as a city, then you need to create a better education plan and talking about what houselessness and the unhoused community are. It is not a crime to be unhoused. It is not a crime, and it's not the children's fault if their family has tried to survive or be evicted out of their homes, and you have some NIMBY running around saying that they're a danger to kids or trying to break up the families. This is Theo Henderson from We the Unhoused. I hope we learned something here, and I hope we again meet in the light of understanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You hit on a perfect note. This is Theo Henderson from We the Unhoused. Today in the studios we have a guest that has been the recipient of one of the grassroots putting the money together to put the unhoused in hotels away from hostile, aggressive sweeps from the LAPD and the disdain from the city. In the studios is Mr. Jimmie, and I'm going to let him tell us a little bit about his experiences with the hotel and his experiences being on the street. Without further ado, Jimmie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about what's going on. How did you end up here?
Well, to be honest, it started about 28 years ago. When I was 16 months, my dad, my two brothers, and my sister died in a house fire. My mom gave me up for adoption. When I turned 24, one of her coworkers found me on Facebook. We did a video on Facebook. We did a video on Google Hangouts, and it's actually on YouTube. It's one of the, she was working at the Union Rescue Mission. It's one of their helpful videos. And so at the time, I was going to Kennesaw School of Cosmetology in Columbia, South Carolina. I decided to show the video to my school, just to show them a part of my life, you know. Never expected that the next day my classmate, he bought me a ticket here. The school got me a hotel room at the Hilton downtown for a week. They gave me $1,500 and 3 Visa gift cards, and they gave me about $500 in cash, just to come out here and spend a week with my mother. I did that. When I came home, my living situation changed. My ex had put me out. I had nowhere to go, and sometimes you'll see where God shows up where you'll never expect him. My mom called me. I didn't call her, she called me. She asked me was I okay 3 times. The first time I said, yes, I'm fine. The second time I said, yes, I'm fine. The third time, something in me just broke. I just told her the whole truth. She said, okay, I'm gonna call you right back. When she called me back, she said, well, you got 2 options. You can stay there and be homeless, or you can come out here and live with me. At the time, she was, like I said, she was staying at the Union Rescue Mission. So I stayed at the Union Rescue Mission for 1 day. I couldn't do, it's like being in jail. And I've never been, at that point, I had never been in jail. So I didn't even want to experience that.
Yes.
So she said, well, you got an option. She said, I got a tent. You can take the tent. So that was in 2014. I've been living on the street ever since.
Okay.
From there, it went into a drug addiction, a real bad drug addiction. But from the drug addiction, I learned a lot about myself. You know, God will take things from you when you think that you have everything in order to show you that you don't. It started with my tooth.
Okay.
I first lost my tooth. Then my mother passed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
2 years ago. Then about a month after that, the tip of my finger got infected. I don't know if you can see this. And I lost 2 fingers, just being deep in my drug addiction and deep in my depression. But one thing I did learn this time, coming from I used to have a house, you know what I'm saying? I chose to be homeless, and a lot of people don't have the luxury to say that they did that, and I did that. You know, I thought it was fun and exciting because I never did it before. I was never living on the streets. I never really had to survive on my own. So then when I finally made the decision that it was time for me to do something differently was when I got out of prison. I got arrested last year, August 6, 2019, for 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, 1 count of great bodily injury. I beat up 4 people when I was drunk.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
what you say you was drunk?
Yeah. I beat him up, left, came back, beat him up again. When I did that, the police saw me the second time. They took me to jail. They was offering me 12 years at first. I took the deal for 2 years with half. I did a year flat. When I got out, things were different. Not just for me, but just different in general. You know what I'm saying? Especially,
how so?
I'm not originally from Hollywood. I was in the downtown area.
Yeah, Skid Row area?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And it's way, to me, it's way worse than Hollywood. Because, you know,
people always want to focus.
So people don't understand that there's homelessness everywhere. And I've experienced it just catching the number 4 bus. And you stop in different places. And I mean, I always thought homelessness was right there in downtown.
Exactly.
And it's, you know what I'm saying, when I was in prison, I learned that at any given moment, there's at least 50,000 homeless people in LA County, period. 50,000.
It's 60 now, but
60,000.
And
you know
with the COVID-19 is adding because people are being thrown out of their houses and evicted too. So
nowhere to go. You know what I'm saying? It's only going to get worse before it gets better. So if we get together and we do something, like I want to thank Jed, and I definitely want to thank Ashley.
Yes.
Those are 2 wonderful people. Literally, I got out of prison. I went on a real bad binge for a while, you know what I'm saying, and I found myself literally butt naked in a park downtown LA, cussing people out, saying Black Lives Matter. And when I came to, you know what I'm saying, they didn't call the police. This is how you can see the kindness in people that you don't regularly see. We see so much in the media about people just, you know, being racist or being, you know, a certain type of way, when the reality is there are a lot of good people in this world, and we just allow people to be good. You know what I'm saying? So when I just stopped. I literally stopped using drugs. I stopped drinking. I had to stop for myself. So I was like, well, I don't want to go back downtown. Where I want to go to Hollywood. So that's how I ended up on Selma and Las Palmas. So when I got there, I spent 2 days just doing recon. Like I just watched what's going on in the neighborhood. Because at that time, I had been coming to Hollywood to visit, but never really to stay. So in my visits, all the gay people, because I'm gay, hang out right. Used to hang out right there in front of the church.
Like, is it near the?
It's the first.
I was going to say it's not near the LGBT.
It's down the street.
Okay.
So it's down. It's like right around the corner from the YMCA.
Oh yeah,
right there. Everybody used to hang out. So then I got there. This time it was only a couple tents. So then I spent 2 days just like hanging out at the church, or going to meet here, or going to and doing stuff with different things. The third day I was there, this guy at the corner, Tony, he had just got his housing. Not his housing, but he had got a residential treatment facility. They came and picked him up from the tent. So then he left the tent, the bedding, everything, and he just stood in the street. And I was like, well, I don't have nothing. So I asked him, I said, can I have it? He said, yeah. Right after he left, Ashley and Jeb showed up. And then she was like, sorry, would you be interested in getting a room instead of just living on the street? She said, if I can get you a room, would you? I said, yes. Now, what surprised me the most about that is the day of us coming here, there were so many people who wanted to go, but then when the time to go, they changed their mind. Oh, I want to hang with my friends, or I can't go because of this, or I don't want to pack up my stuff. The reality is, when it's time for you to do better for yourself, it will present itself first, and then you have to accept it. People don't know about the accepting part. God can present anything you want to present to you, but we have to accept it. That's the free will.
Let me interject here too, because you have to live out here on the street is also a challenge, because sometimes I was having a conversation with Angel that we lose hope. And that's a part of it too. It might not be about being presenting the thing, is that when you feel like the negative stereotypes has been seeping in by the outsider, you tend to believe that, you know. And when, for example, there was a time, and I will, full disclosure, someone offered me to go to Project Room Kit. And when I heard about the prison kind of thing, with them searching, I had a panic attack, because I could not deal with that kind. And I did not want to be like I was a prison, because where I was at, I was able to come and go. I have my own key, go to the bathroom, have my own autonomy, and just go back and forth, and just be a human being. And the fact that they offered me that, and I had to turn it down because of the fact that it's just the idea that seeps into it. Like you are a problem, a burden that we need to put and lock into a cage. And a lot of unhoused people have this suspicion, because they've been promises a lot of times, and it hasn't panned through. It's particularly hot in the street. You know, you've been out here as long as I have, so you know, that is one of the things I like to talk about as well. But go ahead, please continue.
So, you're absolutely correct. So then, what really baffles me the most about I like the way you say the unhoused. This is the first time I'm hearing that terminology. I like that. I'm gonna start using that, because that's what we are. We're not homeless. Because homeless is a tough word. You know what I'm saying? Because the home is where the heart is. So wherever I'm at, I can't be homeless.
That part right there.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's impossible. I might be without a residence. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And one thing I learned is, even being in a hotel, you're still considered homeless.
Exactly.
Because you don't have a legal residence where you can, you know what I'm saying, get your mail or
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You can't put this address on your ID.
And not only that, too, you can't stay here about 28 days, and then they'll throw you out.
Yeah.
So that's just not a permanent residence.
At all.
Exactly.
And 28 days is expensive.
Hell, I'm here to tell you.
You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing I want to appreciate, wherever the funding's coming from. You know,
and they're working to keep you here a little longer. So that's another thing.
And I've been putting the word out there about Street Watch, because that's the organization that I know of. That's helping me right now. I've been telling you.
And Ground Game, Street Watch, Ground Game, K-Town for All. It's a lot of them pushing for this to happen.
There's a wonderful group of people. Just from the two I met, just from day one. Ashley smiled. That's the first thing she said to me. She said, when she said the hotel room, I smiled. She said, "You have a wonderful smile." I said, "Thank you." She said, "Would you mind doing anything? I will talk to anybody about it, because it's a program that really will help the people." I also had an idea. This is just an idea. I'm pitching an idea here.
Okay.
Do you ever notice when homeless people get into accidents, they don't have any emergency contacts?
Yes,
that's one.
correct.
That's the first question they ask you when you get to the hospital. Who's your emergency contact? When we're unhoused, we don't have a lot of support out there, and there's not an organization that only provides emergency contacts, like people who are either from the streets or still currently in the streets who may be able to provide an emergency contact if something went wrong. The situation I was in a friend's tent. This is back when I was living in the tent, and we heard this boom.
Yeah.
Now he's used to be an emergency firefighter, so his first instinct, he jumps up, runs out the tent.
Right.
I'm not a firefighter, police officer, doctor, none of that. I cannot provide any emergency medical assistance. But what I can do is maybe get the person's name, get his information, stuff like that. So when the ambulance comes, those are questions I can answer. He's not going to be able to answer that. Oh, he got hit by a car.
Right.
His whole leg was literally spread on the ground.
Oh my God.
Open up. And if you ever seen that much blood at one time, it doesn't look real. It looks foamy. It doesn't look like regular blood how we look at it. It changed my mind about a lot of things. And but like no one knew his name. No one knew anything about him. No one knew, because we don't have a system set up already. You know what I'm saying? Just for the unhoused. So that was an idea that I had. Maybe we could come up with in you know what I'm saying, in connection with any of these organizations about just an emergency context situation. Just saying, and it doesn't have to be something spectacular. It can be a person with a cell phone.
Yeah.
And if something happens, they can call this person with a cell phone. This person knows generally everything about them. You know what I'm saying? Not all their deep, dark secrets, but just enough to pass any medical questions or anything like that. Because that's very
good idea.
Very difficult when you get to the hospital.
Because it's funny you said that, like 4 years ago when I was stabbed, and I hate to say this because I was floating in and out of consciousness. And the last thing I want to be doing is I haven't been grilled by 100 questions. Like, I'm in immense pain. I'm going in and out of consciousness. 1 minute they ask me a question and I thought I answered it, and they keep asking the same name. Then they keep asking the same, do I know the date? I know, I understand that they're trying to orientate to see if I stay conscious or telling me not to stay awake and things. But it's very cumbersome trying to give all your personal, your mom's name, or your phone number, just you got to go through surgery. So you're right, someone that's on air. This is this guy. This is his name. Call this person. That would help. Yeah.
And then they can maybe carry a card or something like that in their pocket. So in case of emergency, please call this number.
Exactly.
And it's just a simple idea that nobody's implemented.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's just an idea I had.
Cool.
But being homeless, for me, and a lot of people don't, like I say this a lot, they don't get to afford the luxury of saying that. It's not a privilege, but it's a choice for me. At the time, I chose to be. Then I got addicted to it. Being homeless is a lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? You get addicted to the hustling, the bustling of being on the streets. And then when God shows up, He's gonna show out, and that's how it happened for me. I can't explain it to anybody else, and when I explain it to people, they really just are baffled. I'm still baffled, and I'm living it. You know what I'm saying? But God has always showed up for me in my life. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's like, for example, we become institutionalized. People that are incarcerated becomes institutionalized. If you put in a system in place, for example, if you have a city that has educated the public that unhoused people are criminals, drug addicts, they don't want help and things like that, it's very easy to drink that Kool-Aid even if you are unhoused, because you're like, well, hell, they won't offer any help when I keep asking. Well, I'll just choose this, because if I look at something else, what if it doesn't come true and then I'm back out here again? Because one of the things that's hard for me is like to be in a recuperative care place. They don't have any place for me. They don't have enough money. The money stops. Now I got to go back out on the street. So it's just like, you know what? I don't want to hear the help anymore, because, every time you say you're going to help me, I'm here a couple of weeks, and then I'm back out on the street, or a couple of months, and I want something, like the couple there want something permanent. They want something that's stable, that they don't want to, 1 minute they go and throw in some jail cell, because he's has to, he's got the ankle bracelet. I forgot what he said. Some of the responsibility is there. So I think that's one of the things too, is like the nuances about it. It's just not just like people say one day, look out in the street, I like to be harassed by police. No, nobody does that.
Nobody likes to be ignored.
Exactly.
When you're unhoused, you're ignored.
Exactly.
And people don't understand that feeling. Like on Selma in Las Palmas, there are a lot of attractive people, physically attractive people who come by all day long. Then you have people who drive some magnificent cars right there. Like, and it's just tents of homeless people living right there. And I'll never forget, at the time, you know, I had a couple dollars on me, but I needed to use a phone. Right. And it was this lady and this man, they were a couple, and I said, excuse me, can I pay you $1 to use your phone? I don't have to touch your phone. You can dial the number, just put it on speakerphone. Before she said anything else, the first thing out of her mouth was, I don't have any money. I didn't ask you for any money. I didn't, there was no way in the world you could have understood me asking you for any money. My first thing says, I would like to pay you to use your phone. That let me know that people don't actually listen to the unhoused.
Exactly.
They don't pay attention to the unhoused. They may see them, they may even give them $1, but to actually get to understand, you know what I'm saying, what they're going through. A lot of people don't understand that mental illness has a lot to do with what's going on in the unhoused situation. Because you have a person who's already suffering from either from mild to severe mental illness. You mix it with any drug addiction. It can be as strong as weed. Even though we don't consider weed a drug anymore, weed is still a drug no matter what you say. Even something small, I've seen a person addicted to weed living on the streets. No hardcore drugs, not meth, not crack, not heroin, not nothing, just weed. And in the 6 years that I've been here, he has declined just on weed. Weed is legal, but it's still a drug that it changes the mind. It changes your mindset.
You know, when you say mental health issues, because we need to talk about this, because there's a community that believes the majority of unhoused people are mentally ill. Now, we all are affected by the mental strains of being unhoused, because it does. You could be, you know, I want, for want of a better word, normal, but to live that kind of traumatic existence does affect you mentally. But it doesn't mean we, because a lot of the people that are on substance usage were not before they became unhoused. They got on because it was hard to live here, to learn to deal with the day-to-day stresses, which is what I dare any council member that is pushing those special enforcement zones. I would love to see the judges mandate that they, for a year and a half, lose their money and all of their IDs and to live out in these tents. And the ones that they had been targeted are the ones that will write out the orders for them to be targeted and harassed for a year, to see just how much they can they survive out there. But I know that's just wishful thinking. But the point is, no one really is adapted to live out there. So yes, mental health issues is a part of it, but it's not the part sum total.
It's not the pinnacle. It's
not the pinnacle. Definitely not.
It definitely plays a part.
It definitely.
But what I meant was, I meant the people who are more on the severe end. You know what I'm saying, of the mental health issue. Because there some people like me. I have a mental health issue. You know what I'm saying? I suffer from anxiety real bad. I don't do crowds. I cannot do crowds. When this is okay. You know what I'm saying? I can watch everybody. Even that's literally what I'm thinking about. But say I get on the bus. And there's a bus full of people. I'm having an anxiety attack. Because for me, being through everything I've been through, and just even in the past 6 years of me being unhoused, I've learned that I've got to be the one to watch my back. And I never experienced that before. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. South Carolina is one of the most Republican states there is. It is illegal to be homeless. If you live on the street.
Sacramento is a Democratic one, and it's illegal to be homeless.
If you live on the streets, they give you a ticket. So many tickets, you go to jail. See what I'm saying? Now, I've never experienced this before. So coming out here, I learned this word, acclimate, to my surroundings. At all times, you have to acclimate. As humans, we have done that to the highest degree. You know what I'm saying? They say adversity is the mother of invention. You know what I'm saying? When we go through something, we can't figure it out, we come up with a solution to it. You know what I'm saying? But one of the solutions to being unhoused is to accept that. When you were saying that we have this pretty much this doubt in our mind that, okay, this is not going to work. You know what I'm saying? But we have to be not afraid to, we can't be afraid to lose.
But that takes patience. That takes people meeting us where we are. Because I have, and I have friends that believe that unhoused have to be in a conditional kind of state. You have to be ready for help, or you have to be at this point to this point for someone to reach out. And the ones that stick in my mind that reached out, that made me rethink things. And it wasn't my immediate friends. It was a friend that when I was living out in the park, and they don't know these, when they came out of nowhere and seen my stuff and offered to put my stuff and help store some of my stuff. And at first I was distrustful, like, what, are you serious? What did they got, is this for a couple of weeks? And then they're going to come back and say, so when they did that, that made me re-examine my situation. Because it's like, they're not asking me to move my stuff. Maybe I can go get my ID and I don't have to worry about the police taking my stuff. And when I did that, that changed my idea. I said, maybe I can get off the street if I can use, and then they introduced something else. Well, you can get your mail sent here and we'll take up your mail. That was another big burden that was lost. I said, okay, I can see myself finally getting a bit back on my feet because somebody's meeting me where I'm at instead of me, well, you got to be here, you got to be on this time and this date or this. It was not that. And that's the thing I think what a lot of people are looking for. Meet them where they at. Like families have a lot of luggage or things like that, and they just can't just up and just drop everything. Because if it's short term and they get their stuff thrown, then they're back at ground zero. And it's traumatic to start over. Because I've done it several times. It's like it eats at your psyche. It exhausts you because it's freaking exhausting. I gotta go back and wait 4 hours and apply this damn GR thing. Oh my God, I gotta go wait here in this line.
It's not even 4 hours or more. When you do GR, you get it in 10 days.
Yeah, well, 10 days.
I got out of prison.
Oh my God.
On July 28th, I went and applied for food stamps on the 30th. They said come back on the 10th. Now in 10 days.
10 days. How are you gonna survive to eat?
I don't know.
God, that's just.
I don't know.
That's unbelievable.
I
can believe it.
I can tell you what I've done to survive, but then we probably couldn't air it. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
but that's just the truth. But you put
honesty is honesty, and
they
we're
put you in a position to do that. You know what I'm saying? I made a conscious effort not to borrow, steal, or beg anybody for anything this time. You know what I'm saying? Luckily, and I tell people a lot of times, it doesn't matter what you go through. As long as you got God on your side, if you walk with God, He's going to walk with you. Remember the footprints in the sand. You know what I'm saying? Why was there only one pair of footprints? Because when I was tired, He carried me. And I feel like now it's at a point where He's carrying me. He's showing me that, Jimmie, if you want to do this, this is what can happen. I mean, literally, I cannot explain it. I literally thank God every day. It literally was just like boom, boom, boom. I literally stayed in that tent for 2 days. No. That's a lie. Because I met him on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4 days.
Okay. I was going to ask you, Jimmie, I noticed the challenges because I've interviewed queer, gay, transgendered people, and each of them have their own story and their own, in your words, testimony. Were you targeted or bothered? Did you find it difficult to be out here because of that?
Well, okay. Everybody has a different story.
Yes, it is.
My story wasn't that bad. Okay, like, especially with being the gay part. I met this woman. Her name is Carla. We all call her Little Holly Berry because she looks. You ever seen Losing Isaiah? The movie Losing Isaiah with Holly Berry?
Oh yeah.
She looks like Holly Berry in that movie, Losing Isaiah. Wow. Not on the crack, but when she got herself together.
Well, Holly Berry was my secret wife. You just don't know that. But
she's
that's
beautiful.
Don't tell her that.
And when I met her, at the time, I was my stepfather sold cigarettes in front of the Midnight Mission.
Okay.
And if you don't ever know about downtown, they only have two brands of cigarettes. You have the real brand. You have what they call sheriffs.
Yeah.
And so I was just sitting out there with them selling cigarettes. I started off with 2 packs of cigarettes. By the end of the week, I was selling heroin. It's true. So I met her. She was like, I'm the plug. You the plug? Okay, and she's beautiful. I love hanging with beautiful women because I like guys, and guys attract to beautiful women. So I always keep a beautiful woman with me at all points. You know what I'm saying? So we started getting real close, and then we met this other girl named Sarah. So it was me, Holly Berry, and Sarah. And when I say we elevated our game, this is homeless gang or unhoused gang. We went from selling cigarettes to we were selling every drug known to man, and we were selling every cigarette accessory and all that. We just had everything right there on the corner of 6th and San Pedro. And we did that for about 2 years.
Okay.
And we squandered money. This is when I could tell people. Back to the gay part. I was very like shy at first, you know what I'm saying? I didn't talk to any guys, I didn't say anything to anybody. I was just real composed. And I call her my sister. So my sister, she always said, Jimmie, why are you so scary? I'm not scary. I'm not from LA. I've never been here before. I'm not gonna put myself in a situation where I could be in trouble. And it came to the gay part, and I was like, you know, I'm gay. I can't just be talking to guys like this. She said, Jimmie, you see her right there? And she talked about another friend of mine named Spirit. She said, if I can fuck her, you can fuck anybody you want to. And I'm like, what? And then she proved it to me. She pulled her. Like she pulled her. She got, my sister, she's bisexual, so she got capped. And I said, she said, you see that? If I can do it, you can do it. And from that point on, my confidence went from this to this. Because I look at the caliber of woman she is. If she can do it, I can do it. That's my twin sister. Right? So from that point on, anything I wanted to do, I said it. I did. Anything I wanted to say, I said it. Anybody I wanted to fight, I fought them. And over the time, I just kind of got a respect level. You know what I'm saying? And it's not because I come in demanding, no. But my presence commands respect. You know what I'm saying? Because I give everybody equal amount of respect. Now you disrespect me, I'm not going to disrespect you back. Because I'm allowed you to act a fool. So then when situations happen, they're gonna rewind the tape back and be like, damn, you really did get beat up by a gay guy. You know what I'm saying? And I have to think about that. I was never really violent until I came to LA. You know what I'm saying? But it's more on a protection level. So for me, I was downtown. It wasn't socially acceptable to be gay at all. So it wasn't like I could just walk around, but I did, and just be all gay and shit. But you know, so I just had to learn the levels. You know what I'm saying? Certain places you do certain things, and that's just in adulthood. You learn there's a time and a place for everything. You know what I'm saying? I can do whatever I want to in the safety of my room. When I step outside that door, I got to understand there's 9 billion people looking at me at any given time. So I have to understand how to carry myself, and it taught me that. You know what I'm saying? People don't understand when we go through things, you're supposed to learn something from it. And if you don't, then you're gonna repeat that lesson. Maybe not the same way, but you're gonna repeat that lesson until you learn it. And my mom told me this too. She said, Jimmie, whatever you're doing by the age of 30, you're gonna be doing for the rest of your life.
Oh wow.
So I just turned 30 February 14th.
Okay.
And I was in prison. And if my mental up, because I'm like, I don't want to be in prison for the rest of my life. So I had to do something different for me. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people, and I talk to them, they were like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And I tell them, I said, well, you know what I'm saying? Because people are like, oh, you in Hollywood right now? Yeah, I'm in Hollywood. Just come. Literally, I had a tent downtown. I was living with this girl, Nicole. We was in and out, having fun or whatever. And I literally looked up one day, and I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I didn't take a tent, I didn't take a clothes, I didn't take none of that. And if you scan the room, you see I got all that now. I left what I had to do something better for myself. And only way I can help people is if I help myself first. And I learned that from Steve Harvey on the Kings of Comedy. You know what I'm saying? There's no way. He said, if you got 12 broke friends, how do you help them? Don't become number 13. So sometimes you got to learn when to help people, and sometimes you got to learn when to sit back and just allow them to do what they do. So like my friend here, Sleep, you know what I'm saying? I offered him to come here Tuesday. He made a choice to wait till Sunday. So you spent 5 days living on the street doing whatever you wanted to do when you could have been asleep.
Well, you know, like I say, again, it's a process.
And my uncle told me when I was 12 years old, he came to me and said, Jimmie, I need you to learn one thing only. Life's about 2 things, choices and consequences. The choices we make today have consequences tomorrow. We naturally take consequence in a negative connotation, when truthfully, it means consequence, something that comes after sequence, something that happens after something else, a cause and effect. So when I learned that, that's why I say I made a choice to be homeless. Because no matter if I got a mental health issue, no matter if I have a gay issue, no matter if I have any kind of issue, I still made a conscious decision every day to be there. So when I made a conscious decision to do something better happened for me.
Oh, well. Like I say, it's an individual thing. Because I take a disagreement to that, because there are things. I'm thinking of the gentleman that I interviewed that has stage 4 cancer. You know, he cannot, you know, he didn't choose to be out on the street. He couldn't work because his wife already is dead, and he's out here and he's at the end of his life. You know, there's no way he's going to work himself out of it. There's no way he's going to get himself out. He's on his way into the next realm. So there's a lot of things that happen to people that is not a bad choice. Life happens to us. For example, the second example is the pandemic. No one that out here that is living out on the street now
chose to want to live out here. They had a place. They were working. They were doing all the things that they would necessarily happen, but they could not foresee a pandemic that shut their jobs down, that shut them from not being able to pay their rent or taking care of their families. So that's why when I say, the choice argument is a lot of times what people try to use to blame unhoused people. And I want to clarify that distinction because I don't want my listeners thinking, I'm with that. No, there's things.
What I meant myself was myself.
Yeah.
What happened to me.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying? At any point from 24 to 30, I even went to rehab. I went to Safe Refuge. It used to be known as SAF.
Down in
Long Beach.
Oh, okay.
In Long Beach.
Because they had one, don't they have one? No, I was going to say down Skid Row, but that's not the one.
Yeah, I was on the ankle monitor for 3 months, so I could not leave the program. The moment they took the ankle monitor off, I hit it. I made a choice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I could have stayed in the program. I probably would have had my permanent housing by now, but I wasn't ready. And that's a lot about it too. For me, I have to be ready. You know what I'm saying? I was so comfortable with living on the streets. I didn't care. You know what I'm saying? And this last time before I got arrested, I mean literally, one night I just laid. I never done this before because I'm not the type of person that's gonna lay on the street. Even when I slept on the street, I had a bed on top of some pallets. You know what I'm saying? With some blankets, so I could at least feel like, you know what I'm saying, a little bit of comfortability. You know what I'm saying? And this last time I was just like, literally I laid a piece of paper, like I had this long tube of paper, just laid it out. I just laid it on top of the paper. You know? And then that was a sign right there for me. And I tell people a lot of times, a lot of times we don't get arrested, we get rescued. And people don't understand what I mean. When you go to jail, when you go to jail, it works out better for you than if you would have stayed on the streets. For me, this is my opinion. Everything I speak is my opinion. Nothing has been proven to be fact because I can't fact check myself. But for me, when I got arrested, I was 127 pounds as a grown man, 5'9", 127 pounds.
That's pretty thin.
I was very thin, but I thought it was okay. Because I used to be, when I was about 16, I used to be 327 pounds. I used to be really big. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I really got the pictures on Facebook right now. You can see me, my stomach like this. And literally, just like with this situation, I literally woke up one day and I didn't like what I saw. I looked in the mirror. I didn't like the fact that I couldn't see my toes when I looked down. I didn't like the fact that at 16 I got cellulite. So I started walking around the house. Then I started walking around the yard. Then I started walking around the neighborhood. Then I started walking around the entire neighborhood. And eventually, by the time I was 18, I had lost 120 pounds just on my own. And then in between time, I was still working at Wendy's and Dunkin' Donuts. It's hard not to eat what you want to eat when you work there, but I had to learn self-control and discipline at a young age. But I was really taught that when I was a kid because some other shit was going on. But I learned how to just discipline myself. And when I make a choice to do something, I'm going to stick to that choice. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a real big believer on choices because that's the free will God gives us. You know what I'm saying? Okay. For me, this is how I feel. I can't say how other people are going to feel. I can't explain their experience. But that's just mine. You know what I'm saying? And speaking of the police, because I remember this time about 3 years ago, me and my ex, we were asleep. It was Christmas Eve. And this is how you know the police are good people, but they still have a job to do. And I say they're good people because they're still a human being. Even though they do some f***ed up shit, we have to... My uncle was a police officer.
I'm going to have to disagree on that one because let me explain why.
That's what makes the conversation.
I don't want to say that when people talk about police brutality, because this is a real thing, and the difficulty sometimes, and I come from a Christian background, it's very hard to understand the nuance of what we're talking about. We ain't talking about a individual police officer. That has nothing to do with it, and I think that's where we begin and end in that conversation. We are talking about a system where even if they are good, they do some horrific, systematically bad things. For example, we could argue that when Officer Frank Hernandez beat up that unhoused guy down in Boyle Heights, that woman that officer that just stood there and allowed him to do that could be considered a good officer, but she didn't do anything but stood there and let it happen.
when George Floyd was getting his life snuffed out,
three
other officers
sitting there
nowhere near, because if that's a criminal act, they're police officers. This officer, despite he has a badge and a gun, was breaking the law. They were in their legal right to arrest him and stop him from killing another person. The problem is that in particular there is laws that are in place for those good officers that have that job to do that will cause trauma, violence, and all kind of things to the unhoused community. And some of the police officers that I unfortunately have interfaced with are part of the problem because they pump the other NIMBYs and the vigilantes to do these things. So to do the most horrible things, have them arrested, have them harassed. Nobody, despite how great they are as an officer, they work for the people. The people don't work for them. We are not supposed to be in fear of them.
Their job is to protect and to serve.
Exactly. All of us.
All of us.
All of us. No, not just one person, not just the businesses, not the city hall, not the NIMBYs, us too.
One thing I can't agree, you know what I'm saying, when I was on my real bad binger and I felt like people were following me. I don't care what everybody said that. I felt like it. Mm-hmm. It might not have been true to anybody else, but I felt like it. Mm-hmm. And I went to the police and I'm like, I need some help. I feel like my life's in danger. Mm-hmm. The first thing they said was, well, we cannot help you until something happens.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. So if somebody is trying to hurt me, you cannot protect me until I'm hurt. Then that's not protection.
That's true.
Because protection stops you from getting hurt.
But conversely, if you were standing near some business owner's building and they can protect them.
Yes.
Because that's something, but but it's nothing happening to the business owner. You just happen to be existing. That's the inequity that is always somehow I'll give you another example. I was stabbed and in several places. I lost colon and had to be a lot of stuff has to be reattached and things. And it took the police over 45 minutes, and I'm bleeding out. And I'm going in, like I was telling you, in and out of consciousness. And the people that got there first, obviously, was the ambulance. Mm-hmm. By the time the police got there, I was on my way because I couldn't stand there or sit there to give a statement. Yeah. But the point of it is, I was sitting in the park, conversely, just minding my business. This woman seen me sitting in the park, not talking to anybody. People waving and talking to me that I knew, and they felt threatened and called the police. Do you know they took like 6 police officers drive by, look as if I was this violent thug because of the thought that because I'm unhoused, I'm there and I am an eyesore to the community. Mm-hmm. That's what my sticking point is. That's why, you can be as kind and nice to give me a bottle of water, but if you're there to criminalize and put me in jail or incarcerate me, I don't need your water. I need you to treat me just as equitably as you treat those damn business owners or those business improvement districts or richer.
So what do you think is the root of the issue? Because if we take the fact that there are people out of it, they're humans, take that out of it.
Yes.
Who teaches because that's a learned behavior. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We get things 2 ways: nature and nurture.
Yeah.
Nature is what you're born with. A lot of people don't understand. This is my opinion, not fact. Mm-hmm. You're not born with anything. You're not born with intelligence. You're not born with the sexuality. You're born with 5 things. The basic need to survive. Mm-hmm. You're born with the ability to see, hopefully, feel, smell, taste, and hear. Right. Those are what you're born with. Mm-hmm. You were not born with the innate ability to do anything but cry because that's the only language we know.
We communicate.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So everything else in life is taught to us, either subconsciously, just by watching other people, you know what I'm saying, or consciously going to school, listening to your parents. Those are things that everything's taught.
Right.
So with the brutality, is it taught? Because it's not. You're not born with the ability to be. Well, I guess you're born with the ability to be brutal, but you're not born with the knowledge of how to do it.
Well, so I do think this is what I think. Mm-hmm. I think before they put on the uniform, they're educated about certain people, or they're not educated about certain people. and the empathy is not there about other people that don't look like them or have the same experiences that they have or whatever. And then they have been educated because we have a system in place. Now, I'm not talking about individual people. I'm talking, it's in place that even though you could be a kind-hearted people, you have some implicit biases that crop up when confronted with a stressful situation. Case in point, when I was we were in Ventura County going to cover the rally, and I was going, I think you were in the restroom, and I walked up and there was this white woman, and I asked for the key to the bathroom. This white woman automatically just jumped and act like I was about to rob her.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know this woman. I had no intention of trying to rob her or anything like that.
Yeah.
But just the idea that she has in her mind that here's this black guy, I know she's seen more than black people before, we all over the planet. So but the idea, why did she feel that I was going to rob her when I'm like 6 or 7 feet away from her asking for a bathroom key? And that question lies into the same issues as these people that put on these uniforms are armed with those same things. Look at what they put on their hands. I can breathe. When we were talking about I can't breathe, when George Floyd, Freddie Gray is saying I can't breathe, and they said one of the cops are laughing at them. So these things are considerably taught to officers, maybe through the commanding officers, the peer pressure of the groups that if they speak out that they're going to be targeted. So these things they're the same systematic approaches. When we talk about that there is no race issues, like for example in San Luis Obispo, the whites have no idea that there was any racial tensions going on. Yeah, no idea. I had to keep heading. I said, why is it that the people of color keep saying that there are issues here, and you guys keep saying it's not? Then and you're not listening to them. You keep saying that this is all in their head. Obviously, if you're calling them or making a blackface or calling them racial slurs, then that's obviously a problem to them, and you guys keep dismissing it. So it's with the same thing with police officers. They are the same people that ingest the same poisons that we all do in the system. That badge and that uniform does not protect police officers whatsoever from doing it. And good people can do bad things, just like bad people can do good things as well.
Exactly.
But the long and short of it is, this is a history that police officers are recalcitrant and acknowledging it and trying to make change. That's why we're protesting.
Yeah.
That's why we keep saying Black Lives Matter. That's why we say, defund the police, because obviously anytime we talk about changing the police officers' budget that dominates the entire budget, 54% of it, and when you get upset and retaliate and won't serve any police cause, that means it's a systematic problem that you refuse to acknowledge. You want to continue to do the abuses. That's why I say, that's my thing, but we're almost running out of time. So let me sum this up and say, Jimmie, hopefully we can come back and interview you more further on this. I thank you all for listening, and I've learned a lot from you. Your story is definitely inspiring, and you definitely have an excellent point of view that I think makes people think about the different facets of being unhoused. And I hope we meet again in the light of understanding.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, this is Theo Henderson from Unhoused, and on our journey to point out how the ineptitude of the city is, we are showing how people who are not city affiliated have stepped up as usual after they've done the damage of criminalization, harassing, and barbering the unhoused community. They have taken upon themselves and large couple of the unhoused community. One of them is Hal. He's a returning guest on our show. And I want to thank him for taking out of his busy schedule to chit-chat with us and tell us his perspectives on things. Thank you very much, Hal.
Oh, you're welcome. As far as not being city affiliated, just because I wasn't born here doesn't mean that I don't call LA home. Hollywood and LA are our home. I would never dream of going back to Tennessee for any kind of long term. I went back for a little while when COVID-19 first started being a thing. I panicked and I thought if I was going to have to survive somewhere, I needed to be in the woods because I know how to survive in the woods. Don't have a whole lot of desert survival training.
That's very true. Neither do I, not like that. But here is one of the things that I want to talk about and take some time to explore is that let's talk about the criminalization of the special enforcement zone and the police officers that basically target you guys. We touched on it last time, but I want the newer audience to get a full understanding how bad it really is.
There has never been a time when I have interacted with police in Hollywood or LA in general that hasn't been violent, triggering, and generally dehumanizing. All right? I am a human being. Just because I live outside does not mean that my constitutional rights evaporate. I still have the right to move freely about the land. I still have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I can define those things under a capitalist society. Life, that means I have the right to survive. No matter what, in any way I see fit, I have the right to survive. I have the right to liberty, and that means I have the right to make what choices I can to ensure my survival. And happiness is the amassing of things. We live in a capitalist society, and that's what is defined as happiness under that model. So, every time I interact with police in this city and pretty much county, all of those have been trampled on.
Why is it that the police feel like that only certain people should have civil rights and some other people they not? For example, the NIMBYs and the business owners feel like the unhoused should have no rights. They should be criminalized or flung out of the neighborhood or away from them, and to violate them at every time, at every instance. What is your thoughts on that?
The police are not here to serve and protect the public. They're here to serve and protect the 1%'s concept of order. They are paid to put on the uniform of oppression every day and protect wealth that they will never hold.
So tell me about the sweep that happened recently, because I understand that you had some interesting interactions with them. So I would like to hear your side of it.
First of all, Detective Sergeant Shannon Gainey approached me and used my given name. And I told her very directly and concisely that she was not my friend, and she didn't get to call me that, and that I was Mr. Self-Made to her, and if she ever referred to me as anything but, I would slap her with a harassment lawsuit.
Wow. So I understand that did that escalate further, or did it get...
No, she refused to speak to me after that, which is exactly the point I wanted.
Yeah.
I always tell cops I do not consent to conversation. That's their whole MO. They try to trip you up in consensual conversation. If you do not consent to conversation, they have to back off. They cannot continue to press. If they do, that is again grounds for a harassment lawsuit.
So here is the thing that we need to explore as well, is that how does it work when they come in these special enforcement zones? Was LASA out there? Was sanitation out there? Did they try to take your things or anything?
I was protected in this last sweep.
How was you protected?
A couple of grassroots organizations got together and housed some folks from the Schrader Special Enforcement Zone in motel rooms. I'd like to give a big shout out to Streetwatch LA, DSA, and the LA Tenants Union. There are probably other organizations that pulled in for this. I think also K-Town for All was involved. And they have housed us in hotels around the Special Enforcement Zone through the next sweep, I believe we check out Wednesday as it stands right now.
That is great news, because I was hearing that they were trying to raise money to help you guys stay along. I am so happy to hear that.
I don't want to say that for sure. I know that's what they were working on, and I heard a possible affirmative earlier today that we may be able to stay through Wednesday.
That's great. I'm so happy, because I trust me, I know this is not easy out here. One of the things too, prior to that, what is like for the audience to understand, because you're your husband I met a while ago, what is it like living out here in Hollywood, conversely living on the streets in Hollywood? What's the difficulties here?
So the difficulties here, as opposed to anywhere else, my only sin in LA is being poor. I came from Tennessee to escape some discrimination and hate, and I'm not.
Due to your.
Yeah, I'm transgender and queer, and if you're any shade of brown or any kind of different in the South, it's a problem, and it's just not a good scene. Mm-hmm. So that's why I ended up in Hollywood, and that's my only sin here is being poor. Mm-hmm. I came to escape the hate, but I found another form of hate because I'm disabled and poor. Mm-hmm. If people would just realize that we are all human and we are all neighbors, no matter if we have a concrete address or not, the world would be a better place. I'm not here to cause you any kind of distinct inconvenience. I'm sorry that my disability and the product of your hoarding has put me here, and it makes you uncomfortable to see me on the street. If you want to change it, change yourself.
Very well put. I was going to say, what is the things that you would like to see change and happen here that would help you and other people in your predicament?
Okay. For me specifically, all of LA County, I believe, is in violation of the ADA. I believe the ADA states that for every 1,000 residents in a county, you must have one ADA accessible low-income unit. LA County has a population of something like 10 million plus. That's 100,000 accessible units, low-income units, as per federal law. Where are they, and why am I not in one?
Well, here's one of the things I would have to ask is this, what I noticed too, is why the city tends to listen to business owners and NIMBYs, because anytime that supportive housing is introduced or tentatively talked about by the grassroots organizations, here comes a bunch of hateful people that would not survive maybe a week out here on the streets, come and talk about that unhoused people are a danger to children, old people, or the neighborhood value, property values is going down. They really care about their property values instead of human life, which is really disturbing and to say the least. But what's your insights on that?
Again, anyone who values property over human life can just go pound sand. I'm sorry, that's not what humanity is about. Humanity, we are designed to be social creatures and take care of each other and be interdependent, not codependent. There's a big difference. Mm-hmm. And if more people could understand that interdependence is necessary for the betterment of all of us, and get rid of this ideal of I got mine, fuck you, we could all be a lot better off.
I understand. I agree. So what do you see, because there's been a lot of protests, as you probably I've observed as well, a lot of protests that's been going on, and what do you see would it take for the unhoused community to get together and to demand our seat at the table?
I would love to see that happen, but I don't think it will. I think that the NIMBYs and the money and the power will always do what they can to silence and or eradicate us. I think it's Nazi Gestapo tactics, it's a form of genocide and eugenics, and someday maybe the capitalists will realize that capitalism is cannibalistic and also its own gravedigger. When you got nobody else to flip your burgers and haul your trash, what are you gonna do?
Well, maybe that's why they're trying to find if there's sustainable life over in Mars or off this planet. But I always have a very shudder about it. I know you.
I have my own ideas on that too.
But here's my idea as well. It's like I always, as a younger child, as a younger black kid, I always found it bizarre that a bunch of white people are going in other people's lands over in other planets after decimating the Native Americans and the Native indigenous people, the enslaved blacks, and displaced a host of other cultures. And in the arrogance of thinking that they're going to bring something to civilization that are probably having their own advanced high culture instead, and we bringing nothing but war and death. Right. So that's one of the things that I keep wondering why we so hell-bent on space, because we can't solve the issues of learning how to respect the dignity of the unhoused communities and people of color right now. So what's your expectation?
We can't figure out how to treat everybody as an equal human being here on this planet. Why are we trying to colonize space?
Right.
I have an answer for that.
Yes.
I have an answer for that. White people didn't belong on this planet in the first place. White people did not belong on this planet in the first place. There's an asteroid belt somewhere out between Jupiter and Neptune, I believe. I think that was the white folks' planet, and they it up beyond all repair and spotted this third rock from the sun that had life on it similar to theirs and thought, let's go that up too.
Well, that's certainly a unique perspective. Who am I? I'm not
and have we failed?
Astrophysics, yeah.
Have we failed?
Oh.
Okay.
Well, we have done that. So. Well, I have to thank you, Cal, for taking time out from your busy schedule to telling us about your perspectives. And again, it's always a pleasure. Hopefully we can invite you again in other happier times.
I'm always glad to speak out, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for showing up. This is Theo Henderson for Unhoused, and I hope we learned something here. And it is my sincere hope that we meet in the light of understanding. Usually my outros are very short. Today I want to talk about something that has been weighing on the consciousness of the entire society. Recently, Kyle Rittenhouse opened fire on Black Lives Matter protesters. He's being hailed as a hero, and he's been claimed that he's using self-defense. When you consider the matter very closely, is why would an armed person go down into a state that they don't live in to go and corral and to intimidate protesters that are unarmed? And what gave him the right to, as an underage kid, to go out and open fire on him? Because think of it like this. How many cases of white serial killers that had go in and open fire on innocent people that are not armed? The usual response is to try to restrain that person. People are failing to realize when they were running to him, they were trying to stop him from doing the criminal or violent act. President Trump considers himself doing law and order. However, he fails to call out this criminal a thug. So there is where the case is, these people that are saying these kind of conversational points against Black Lives Matter, they really don't care about the injustices that black are going through. They just want you to be quiet. And if you don't be quiet, they will arm themselves up to make sure that you're forever silenced. In 2 days, Kyle Rittenhouse has raised over $100,000. 2 days within a minimum amount of people. Organizations like We the Unhoused, We Help the Unhoused, Cape Town for All, and these other organizations, we are unable to raise that type of money within 2 days. Right now, my Patreon, which I'm asking always to people to donate, I can barely get over a grand after the amount of work that I've done. So if we really want to talk about the injustices in white privilege, we have to look at it no further than Kyle Rittenhouse. What prompted the whole American society to sit there and give over a $250,000 to a person that went and shot 2 unarmed people? This is Theo Henderson from We the Unhoused, and I thank you all for listening, and it is my hope we meet in the light of understanding.